Andrew Lehman, the owner and director of Certified Forensic Loan Auditors in Houston, Texas. This particular video is for you and the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau and FinCen and HUD, the FHA, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and of course William Barr at the Department of Justice. Now, Mr. Andrew Lehman, I want to lay a little bit of groundwork here, and I want you to know that I used to work for Brian Brewer. That would be Brian and Marty Brewer, long before the Momentum title in Houston was born. I was recommended for that job by an attorney, a real estate broker, real estate lawyer, who was the deed recorder in Montgomery County, Texas. That would be Roy Harris, Mr. Roy Harris, Mark Thurmball's predecessor. And yes, Mr. Andrew Lehman, I've known Nelda Luce Radabow Blair of the Luce real estate fortune for decades. Hi, Nelda. Another name I want to drop on you, Mr. Andrew Lehman of Certified Forensic Loan Auditors, is Barb Sadler. Good old Barb Sadler. He was with the First Conroe Bank up there by Lake Conroe. Good old Alan Barb Sadler. And I can go into the names of many, many, many people that were associated with the unbelievable, massive real estate swindles and real estate frauds and the bank lootings and the loan frauds to the FHA, HUD, the VA, all through the 70s, all through the 80s, and all through the 90s, Mr. Andrew Lehman. Now, about 4 years ago or so, I began to make Freedom of Information Act demands on the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau. I was demanding from Eric Schneiderman and from Eric Holder and from Loretta Lynch the forensic records, if you will, associated with all these odd, funny, predatory mortgages and all these weird securitized real estate deals where they bundled up these subprime mortgages and sold them into the European banking markets. I'm specifically addressing Credit Suisse, JP Morgan Chase, Deutsche Bank, Citibank, the list goes on, WAMU, Countrywide, Bank of New York Mellon, and I can go all day, but that's not necessary. Mr. Andrew Lehman with Certified Forensic Loan Auditors. Now, I want to shift gears here a little bit, and I want to direct this conversation to William Wagner and Renee Powers and Renee Weiler of Weiler Real Estate Services, Weiler Title, and the California 18. Now, the reason I am making this particular video this morning is quite simply this. In the United States District Court in Greenville, Tennessee, before Judge Poplin, Judge Corker, and Judge Jordan, this guy right here and the research team, and a wonderful lady from Tennessee, her name's Jacqueline Birchfield, are pursuing case number 2-CV-005 against Deutsche Bank, Credit Suisse, and JP Morgan Chase, and drumroll, our good old pals from Select Portfolio Services. Cause number 219-CV-005 also involves HUD, FinCen, the Department of Justice, FBI, and you bet, the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau with the FHA, Fannie Mae, and Freddie Mac. And the list of defendants and witnesses is lengthy. Now, Mr. Andrew Lehman, certified forensic loan auditors, I have been going round and round and round and round and round with the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau, FinCen, HUD, FHA, Department of Justice, and FBI over the very same records that they've denied to you and over the very same issues and legal matters at the heart of the litigation that you're currently involved in. Just by coincidence, Mr. Lehman. Now, I want Mr. Andrew Lehman to understand something. I spent a lot of time building the Allied Bank, the Republic Bank, First City Bank, M Bank, Gibraltar Savings, Benjamin Franklin Savings, and a whole bunch of other little dirty banks in Houston, which did business with Rita Labobetti Group, RLG Holdings, and the Western Banks of Harris County, Texas. And apparently those Western banks have affiliations all over the United States and, Mr. Lehman, all around the world. Because you see, Mr. Lehman, the Middle Eastern money, the Lebanese and Saudi Arabian billionaires behind the Western banks, that would be cause number 198617930, Harris County, Texas, Judge Russell T. Lloyd's courtroom back in 1986-87. In other words, Mr. Lehman, this dirty real estate racket and scheming and game goes back decades. Now, for the benefit of everyone who's following the certified forensic loan auditors litigation that Andrew Lehman is involved in, I want people to understand this. The massive real estate swindling, the massive savings and loan and banking frauds associated with toxic zombie developments, the Great Texas Bank Job, America Looted Stupid, and my entire series of videos and writings going back decades is intrinsically connected directly to the Consumer Finance Protection Board, FBI, and Department of Justice covering up for, whitewashing, and protecting the gangster banksters. That goes to my entire audience and directly to Christopher Wray, Director of FBI and the Attorney General of the United States, Mr. Christopher Wray, and, William Barr, and Eric Schneiderman, and Loretta Lynch, and Alberto Gonzalez, and, Ed Meese, and Janet Reno, and a whole bunch of the other John Ashcroft slobs that have been protecting the banks and protecting the real estate criminals in this massive real estate scheming and scamming that's gone on long before Donald Rumsfeld announced he couldn't account for $2.3 trillion at the Pentagon, which later turned out to be they couldn't account for nearly $9 trillion. Reserve notes. The bills of credit, the script. Donald Rumsfeld's missing fortune is also matched almost identically to over $9 trillion that the Federal Reserve can't account for. Ask Congressman Grayson from Florida in his congressional hearings into the massive amounts of money missing from the Federal Reserve. And then, of course, let's look at all the weapons trafficking from Iran-Contra to the Philippines to Panama to Benghazi to Syria to Israel, all over the freaking world. The magical, fantastical gun-running operations of Hillary and Bill Clinton and George and all the Bushes that were operating out of Andrew Lehman, the 26th floor of the Houstonian Estates. You know, right up the feeder road there from where Roland Carnaby was gunned down by the HPD. I'll bet you Andrew Lehman remembers when Roland Carnaby was gunned down by Houston Police Department right up the street from where the Bushes lived on the 26th floor of the Houstonian Estates. How about that, certified forensic loan auditors? This mess that you're alleging that the Consumer Finance Protection Board is protecting the big banks, this stuff goes back decades. And this guy right here, has been tracking it and writing about it since the 80s. Toxic zombie developments, and I'll guarantee you one thing, up in the Woodlands, Andrew Lehman, up at the Woodlands, there's this former United States Secret Service agent. His name is Rick Williams. He used to work for the Secret Service protecting George Bush Sr. I will absolutely guarantee you that the Montgomery County and Harris County Commissioners Court and the FBI and the Department of Justice in Houston, Texas, are extremely well aware of the fact that the banks and the savings and loans were robbed on a gargantuan, immense, massive scale, just like what's going on right now, that the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau is trying to cover up. Andrew Lehman, certified forensic loan auditors. I've written you several letters. I'm fixing to call you a few times. And, you know, I've had a couple of interesting conversations with Brian Brewer over there at Momentum Title. You see, Mr. Andrew Lehman, I ran abstract investigations for the FDIC and the RTC and all the big bankster gangster slobs during the 1990s. Up on 1960, out of the FM 1960, out of the Office of American Priority Resources, that were run by Marty Brewer, Brian's former wife, Marty Brewer, and Brian Brewer, the president and founding director of Momentum Title in Houston, Texas. And if you think I'm fooling around, pick up the phone and call Nelda Luce Radabow Blair, and then pick up the phone and call Montgomery County Attorney, the former county attorney, Frank Bass's wife. Excuse me, and Barb Sadler. Alan Sadler, you know, big poobah up there with First Bank Conroe. Andrew Lehman, are you hearing me? Now this message is directed to Donald J. Trump and to Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton and the Bushes and William Barr and Christopher Wray. This massive, mega out of control real estate swindling, fraud scheme, and racketeering involves a huge amount of laundering of money. And that's precisely the issues that are before the United States District Court in Greenville, Tennessee, in cause number 2:19-CV-005 before Judge Poplin, Corker, and Jordan. You see, Mr. Andrew Lehman, this video is not a joke. This video is as serious and real as it gets. And it goes all the way back to Iran-Contra. It goes all the way back to Charlie Wilson's war. You know all about it, don't you, Mr. Lehman? Operation Lone Star. A flood of guns and blood. The setting for this saga of international terrorism and black ops warfare, good old uptown Houston. all around Lamar Terrace. Excuse me. Involving the Triad gang of the Bin Ladens, the Khashoggis, the Gabanafars, the Clintons, the Bushes, and Donald J. Trump. Mr. Real Estate Empire financed by Deutsche Bank. How about that, Donald Trump? Isn't this fascinating stuff? And you can explain to the world who you bought the Trump princess from. I got a lot of witnesses, Andrew Lehman. You understand this over at Consumer Finance Protection Board. This guy right here, the old man, the original whistleblower, has been tracking and writing about this story since the 80s. And I got witnesses out the gazoo. Stop by or pick up the phone and call United States Senior District Judge Lynn Hughes over at 515 Rusk. Get a hold of Kathleen Hamilton, State District Judge Kathleen Hamilton. Pick up the phone and call Judge Lee Rosenthal from the law firm of Baker and Botts. And yes, Mr. Andrew Lehman, certified forensic loan auditors, FinCen and Elkins are in this mess up to their freaking eyeballs. Along with George Bush Jr. And his little buddy there, John Ellis, old Jeb Bush, and that other clown there from the Silverado Savings and Loan, and all those goofballs up there in Rhode Island and Delaware at the BB&T Bank. The whole Bush family, the entire Bush family, with Uncle Marvin, and I'm trying to remember that goofball from Colorado there. I can't think of his name right now. The other Bush brother that ran the Silverado into the ground with the likes of, Charlie Keating and that whole bunch around the land swindles and the land scheming and speculations all over Texas and Florida and Mississippi. And Utah's hugely infested with these land swindles. In California, and Arizona, and Hawaii, and Alaska, New York, and Vermont, and Maine, and the Carolinas is massively involved in all of this. It's all over the country. Andrew Lehman, it's all over the world. These real estate swindles and real estate cons are global. And this guy right here, Judson Witham, from Glens Falls in Lake George, New York. I've been raising hell about it. Look me up in the Houston Chronicle. Look me up in the former Houston Post. And make sure you pick up the old phone and get a hold of those goofballs up at the Conroe Courier. Oh, and I was on ABC News and NBC News and CBS News and Fox News and PBS News all during the 80s, 90s, and it's going on right now. Andrew Lehman, forensic certified loan auditors. You'll have to excuse my coughing. I worked a lot of years in the skyscrapers all around 515 Rusk and Tranquility Park. That's right, I worked for George Mishner. I worked for a bunch of them down there. I worked for a lot of them all around downtown Houston, the medical center, up at Greens Point, down around Hobby Airport, all over the west side, the east side, the upside, and the downside of Harris and Montgomery County, Texas. I'm the doctor. I'm the professor, Andrew Lehman, and Consumer Finance Protection Board has been doing nothing but stonewalling, covering up, and whitewashing the records associated with the largest financial frauds in human history. And that's a message to whoever your judges are, Andrew Lehman. That's a message to the attorneys that are representing the Consumer Finance Protection Board, the FBI, the Department of Justice, FHA, HUD, and especially U.S. Treasury over at FinCen. Now, who the hell do they think they're kidding? You know what's fascinating about the old Western banks that I went after in 1985, 86 in Houston, Texas, is the people behind the Western banks are fantastically wealthy billionaires. Billionaires. That bank never went insolvent. That was all a fraud. They staged it. They staged the fake insolvency of the Western banks. Andrew Lehman, certified forensic loan auditors. This is how long this has been going on, since Russell T. Lloyd was the judge of the 334th State District Court, Harris County, Texas. Been going on a long time. Now, to all of your fans and to all of your friends, Mr. Andrew Lehman, I want you to know one thing. My name is Judson Witham, and you can be assured of one thing. My research team tracks it all, and we are going to get to the bottom of it in Greenville, Tennessee. And I've got other cases before the federal courts. One includes a lawsuit against the United States Supreme Court for fraud, for lying, cheating, and stealing, and making up bullshit stories to deny to people their constitutional rights. The U.S. Supreme Court and other federal courts all over the United States are covering up for the criminals. They're protecting the big, too big to fail banksters, too big to jail, too big to prosecute banksters. Because this financial system's rotten to the core. And this rotten financial system is directly connected to the Clintons, the Bushes, all that dope and weapons trafficking running out of Mena, Arkansas with Barry Seal and Air America and Tosh Plumley, and I can go on all day long. The Mena matters involving the Clintons are directly involved with the Bushes on the 26th floor of the Houstonian Estates. Benghazi, Iran-Contra, Charlie Wilson's war, the mysterious gun-running operations of Madam Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, and Mr. James Baker III. Come on down, pal. James Baker III, Joanna Herring King, Robert King, R.V. King, you know, the wilderness up in Conroe, out of Montgomery County. Joanna Herring, Channel 11 News, right, Joanna King? Channel 11 News, the Joanna Show. Ain't that fascinating, Andrew Lehman? And it gets a lot deeper in Harris, Montgomery County, Texas. It gets a whole lot deeper in Washington, D.C. And all these missing trillions. The missing trillions all seem to be commingled and mixed in. The dirty money and the clean money, and all being laundered through these predatory foreclosures. Look that one up, Andrew Lehman. You'll enjoy my work on predatory foreclosure and predatory mortgages. It's all part of their money laundering operations. It's a great way to launder money. And yes, we've written extensively about it. And the last thing I'm going to say, because I'm droning on in this video, is the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau. You're exposed. You got nowhere to hide. And neither does the Department of Justice, the FBI, FinCen, HUD, FHFA, Federal Home Loan Bank Board, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, the whole pile of you. And the idea that Deutsche Bank is cooperating in all these crooked bond transactions, Deutsche Bank has become an informant. they're cooperating with the Justice Department. They settled for $15 million in this marathon crime spree, this immense gargantuan crime scene. Deutsche Bank settled for 15 million reserve notes. You know, helicopter money. Deutsche Bank settled for quantitative easing dollars. Quantitative easing bucks. Helicopter dollars. Look that up, Andrew Lehman. Certified forensic loan auditors, you're on notice. And, Andrew Lehman, you and your network of auditors are material witnesses in cause number C, 2-CV-CV-005. The research team in Greenville, Tennessee, federal court. We'll be talking to you, Mr. Lehman. Have a nice day.